Greetings in the name of Kedamawi Haile Selassie, from Kedamawi Haile Selassie to Maribed. On this, the Wazima, the eve of the Ledet of Kedamawi Haile Selassie, the Earth Strong of Haile Selassie first. Now, on an auspicious day like this, it is appropriate to make mention of the glorious words of Kedamawi Haile Selassie, which are useful for our development, guidance, and inspiration. Now, my first quote today is of great importance, as is everyone. Haile Selassie first said, "The shadow of the evil one hovers over the earth, even if to render more deserving the efforts of the wise," unquote. Now this refers to the propensity of evil, of even weakness, or the common and popular traits and trends that one might witness, may exemplify the influence of the evil one. And Haile Selassie first mandates us to be not moved or overwhelmed by these things, but just be strong and be steadfast in our right ways. Similarly, in reference to the devices and the mechanisms of neocolonialism and the form of imperial oppression that has been meted out to the people of the third world nations, the so-called less developed countries, and even the people of the African races. Haile Selassie first says, we must not delude ourselves by thinking that these mechanisms and devices do not exist. Neither should we discourage ourselves by thinking that the obstacles which they present are insurmountable, unquote. In other words, Haile Selassie first said that we must not go about it with naivety, thinking that there are not sophisticated schemes already laid out for the entrapment and the further oppression of certain peoples who seem to have been the unfortunate or the less grandiose on this earth. Internationally, there are devices that are meant to maintain the status quo and to keep things as they are, with certain persons doing most of or all of the work and others receiving all of the benefits and the profits thereof. And we must also be encouraged that we can overcome these obstacles with application of our wise thoughts, cooperation, respect for each other, and equity of responsibility, as well as rights and privileges. We can overcome the obstacles of oppression that have been leveled against us. Now, Haile Selassie first tells us further that it is the will of the Almighty that domination by force should perish by the same force which imposed it. So, individually and collectively, one should examine the means and the processes by which you seek advancement. The process and means by which you seek to achieve all that you desire. to achieve fulfillment. Because if one is being dominated, or if one is dominating in one's attitude and performance, it is the will of the Almighty that that domination should perish by the same force which imposed it. So one ought to be careful in all that which is done, remembering all the while Haile Selassie first says, we are confident in the victory of good over evil. So in all one's endeavors, be conscious to keep your intentions good, for good always conquers over evil. Keremawe Haile Selassie be praised. As from this day, we commemorate the advent on the earth of Keremawe Haile Selassie in his physical presence, as was prophesied, as Job in the Bible so accurately prophesied when he said at Job 19:25, I know my Redeemer liveth, and at the latter day he shall stand upon the earth. Keremawe Haile Selassie Yemasgan. And upon Haile Selassie first coronation, as was prophesied at Revelation chapter 4 verse 3, when 3 Fituaris, commanders of battalions, and their battalions formed 3 semicircles around the throne, dressed in red, gold, and green, in effect the colors of the rainbow, fulfilling the prophecy at Revelation chapter 4 verse 3, which says, and he that sat was to look at like a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow round about the throne. Keremawe Haile Selassie Yemasgan. Haile Selassie first walked, reigned, lived, prophesied, and at the League of Nations, in his 19 pages of address at the League of Nations, the General Assembly meeting of the League of Nations in Geneva in 1936. What Haile Selassie first did was, in effect, pronounce the judgment of the world. As it is written, he judged the living, the quick, and the dead, the living and the unborn. The principles that he laid down and all that he said bears true still, even for those who were not born at the time when Haile Selassie first spoke. All that he said and all that he described would be meted out to persons who acted in specific ways. All those we can bear witness still bears true. For example, Haile Selassie first said it was the concept of the inequality of men and the superior of ethnic groups that caused wars. He said that though the match was struck in Ethiopia, as when Mussolini of Italy invaded Ethiopia because he thought that the Ethiopians did not deserve to rule themselves in such a great and grand country, with such magnificent artifacts and stuff, that the Italians would take over and administer this place, as it was their duty to give their people each a place in the sun. When Mussolini thought it fit to declare King Victor Emmanuel II as Emperor of Ethiopia. Okay, Haile Selassie first told them that though the match was struck in Ethiopia, the fire shall burn Europe. And with the wars in Europe, as we've seen in recent years, even the Serbs and the Croats, even the Russians and the Ukrainians, yes, this is the fire that Keremawe Haile Selassie predicted. The fire of ethnic and racial inequality and superiority and inferiority. That fire which was struck in Ethiopia is still burning in Europe and indeed North America and so many places on the earth. One fine example of the relevance of the words of Keremawe Haile Selassie. And so relevant are these words that I conclude with a final quote of Haile Selassie first, which I look at as so important, so significant, and so relevant to our present life that it is painted on the outside wall of my house. As the price of honesty will be paid by the blessed sons of the Almighty, so too shall we lead our people gradually towards honest gain and prosperity. Those words were, among others, uttered by Haile Selassie first in his third throne speech on the 2nd anniversary of his coronation. Keremawe Haile Selassie, whose inexhaustible mercies are the best, and to whom I give all thanks and praise and glory and power and honor. Keremawe Haile Selassie, be praised. Keremawe Haile Selassie, Yemaskan. Blessed day to all my well-wishers, in particular Melinda Sampson, Red Salome Griffith. Blessed be the eye in the name of Keremawe Haile Selassie. Dwayne Kingston, Dwayne Ticos, blessed be the Isis. More life, much success. Keremawe Haile Selassie, Yemasgan.